Company Information section. Legal company name versus DBA name. Often companies operate using a DBA or doing business as name. That's different from the legal company name. Having the company's legal name on the business profile, as well as reflected in Salesforce, is critically important for generating the closing documents you'll need later in the sales process. The final 3 yes or no questions in this section ask about the prospect's history within specialty and/or other PEOs. If the prospect was a former Insperity client, this may impact the approval process as well as your own selling strategy. Prospects currently in a PEO relationship may also need a special strategy to obtain required documentation. Generally, business owners need to be on Insperity's payroll to receive medical benefits and workers' compensation insurance. Exceptions are possible but require special approval and documentation. Does your company? The Affordable Care Act has placed new emphasis on the need to determine when and if related organizations are treated as a single employer for purposes of meeting various ACA requirements. Companies operating under separate tax ID numbers are not necessarily relieved from being treated as a single employer under controlled group rules. The company's ownership structure and the relationships to other businesses are used to verify if they are a controlled group. Insperity evaluates this information to ensure compliance and to mitigate potential liabilities. Group health plan information. This section provides general information related to the company's current health plan coverage and prior career history. If no health coverage is currently in place, you'll want to know why and what they have budgeted for adding this new benefit for employees. If answered yes, supporting documentation of the prospect's current medical plan summary and invoice will need to be collected. This information is used to compare plan designs and determine discounts to Insperity-based allocations. If a company has a history of changing medical carriers on a yearly basis, they may be trying to lower their medical cost through plan design changes and/or taking advantage of first-year pricing. Finding out why they did so will be significant to pricing and review, and understanding how those changes affected the company and its employees will also help you develop an appropriate sales strategy. Workers' compensation information. If answered yes, collect a current workers' compensation schedule of operations, also referred to as the declarations or deck page. This document lists the rates for each workers' compensation classification code, the company's experience modifier, and any other relevant discounts or expenses. If answered no, you should probe deeper as to why they chose not to have workers' compensation insurance and whether it was ever canceled by their carrier. Texas is the only state where coverage is not required by law. Now let's review page 2 of the confidential business profile, the operational information. The description of the business should be very thorough and include information about the company's products and services, as well as provide details about the role their employees play in the daily operations. This information helps Insperity to evaluate the risk of bringing them on as a HR 360 client. The Standard Industrial Classification Code, also referred to as the SIC code, helps verify if a prospect's line of business fits our HR 360 guidelines. Attached, you will find the prohibited industry list that will help you effectively judge the quality of a sales opportunity by being aware of risk management issues that impact the review and approval process. If a prospect answers yes that their company is currently or expects to be an applicable large employer, then they must complete a group health history questionnaire. We will review this questionnaire later in this module. Under the Affordable Care Act, an applicable large employer is defined as an employer with 50 or more full-time equivalent employees in the prior calendar year. If a prospect has related companies, employee information from the related entities must be included to make this determination. COBRA requires most employers with group health plans to offer employees the opportunity to temporarily continue their group health care coverage under their employer's plan if their coverage would otherwise cease due to qualifying events such as termination, layoff, or other change in employment status. If a prospect has former employees on COBRA at the time that they become a HR 360 client, Insperity will take over these COBRA participants in order to control the long-term cost of Insperity's group health plan and minimize our exposure to risk. As of the effective date, we will determine a number that equals 10% of the full-time staff. This number is the prospect's allowable COBRA takeover participants. Each eligible COBRA takeover participant who elects coverage in excess of the allowable COBRA takeover participants will be subject to an excess COBRA participant fee as stated in our CSA. The employee roster asks for employee and dependent-related information. This information helps Insperity understand the demographics of the workforce and is used in the determination of appropriate medical allocations for each employee. Most companies have an internal department structure that groups employees based on functions and/or hierarchy. When submitting the confidential business profile and employee roster, a best practice is to mirror their existing groups. By doing so, you can present the proposal and pricing information in a way that makes sense to the business owner. Having the correct job title, workers' comp codes, and work state ensures that accurate workers' comp allocations will be collected for each employee. According to ACA rules, employees working over 30 hours per week on average are considered full-time and are eligible for medical coverage. Additional potential high-risk indicators to consider. If there is a high percentage of part-time or temporary employees, the prospect may have a high turnover rate and higher than average workers' compensation claims since these employees are not eligible for medical benefits. Commission-only employees may create a challenge for Insperity as it relates to collecting employees' contributions for benefits. Monthly pay frequency. FLSA guidelines only allow exempt employees to be paid monthly, while non-exempt employees need to be paid semi-monthly or more frequently. In addition, a monthly payroll may create some concern for Insperity as the liability is greater for a monthly payroll. In this situation, you may consider probing further as to why the prospect has selected this pay frequency. Insperity must know the medical coverage level elections, including dental and vision if applicable, for each employee eligible for benefits. These coverage level elections are categorized as follows: employee only, employee and spouse, employee and child, employee and children, employee spouse and children, declined or waived coverage, and ineligible bill due to waiting period or part-time or temporary status. When an employee declines, waives, or is ineligible for coverage, the reason for this should be noted. Based on our plan design and our carrier requirements, overall participation levels should be 75%. Those employees who have other coverage do not count against the participation level. Work with your district manager to develop the appropriate benefit strategy for your prospect. Note, the only dependent-related information needed are first and last name, zip, date of birth, and gender. The Group Health History Questionnaire should be completed by prospects with 50 or more full-time employees. This form aids Insperity in accurately pricing the benefits allocation cost by understanding if a group presents an obvious health risk or has the potential of producing ongoing high medical claims. Make sure you and the prospect read the instructions prior to completing the questionnaire. Take care not to include any information that could identify a specific employee. To ensure the prospect receives fair and accurate pricing, and that Insperity gets all the relevant data in order to assess our risk, it is your responsibility to ask these questions without leading the prospect and without discounting information that could be important to pricing and review. Remember, the following supplemental information is required: current health insurance plan summary, the most recent health insurance invoice and renewal documents if applicable, and for groups with 100 or more medical enrollees, attach 2 years of medical loss runs and a large claims analysis. Let's look at the final document, the new Client Risk Review Questionnaire. Remember, this information is required from all prospects before you can receive final pricing and approval. Workers' compensation insurance minimizes an employer's exposure to risk and potential liabilities associated with workplace accidents and employee lawsuits. For employees, the policy pays for lost wages and medical expenses related to workplace accidents and injuries. If the prospect answers yes, their workers' compensation insurance has been canceled within the last 3 years. This may point to an increased risk associated with bringing them on as a client. These operational questions help pricing and review understand potential safety risk within the company. If any of these apply to your prospect, additional information will be required. In some instances, the pricing and review team may request a safety inspection to learn more about the organization, its operations, and to ensure the employee's workers' comp classification codes are accurate. Employees on an approved leave of absence have certain rights and responsibilities under law. Understanding a prospect's workforce, including employees on leave, will help ensure compliance. This also affords an opportunity to discuss a strategy for helping get their employees back to work in a manner that is advantageous to the employer and the employee. Insperity HR 360 clients automatically receive employer practices liability insurance, which protects businesses against employee claims that there have been violations related to the employment process. By asking a prospect if they have had a history of layoffs or if they anticipate layoffs, we can gain a better understanding of the health of the company. Layoffs can signify additional problems in the workplace or an influx of COBRA liability. Prospects may be considered higher risk if they have paid claims related to wrongful termination, discrimination, sexual harassment, EEOC charges, or if they have active cases. If a prospect answers yes to any of these questions, further probing and details are needed to help the pricing and review team assess risk. The more comfortable you become with the business profile documents, the better you can answer questions from your prospects and facilitate the gathering of all the required information for pricing and approval. Remember, the business profile is an important milestone in the sales process. The expectation for every BPA is to be knowledgeable of the business profile documents and to provide complete and accurate information. Your ability to guide, advise, encourage, and mentor your prospective client through the business profile process will help ensure the success of you, your client, and Insperity. In today's training, you previewed the documents and information needed to submit a complete business profile to the Pricing and Review Department and learned some key points that make asking for the business profile a non-event.